Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
With all the technical difficulties, I'm going to introduce my guest in a couple of minutes. I just want to talk a little bit about, just want to calm down from all these technical difficulties. Thank you, Mercury. So today I called the show Is Creativity the Answer? And I'm one of those people that really believes that it is. I was a former art major. I owned a gallery. I tried to follow a creative path to no avail, gave up. But what I love about my guest is that he never gave up. He never gives up. He is one of these people that no matter what's going on, no matter what is happening in the world, or no matter what his situation is or the world situation is, he never gives up. And I just, even though we're talking about art and creativity today, it's really about tapping into our true purpose, envisioning what we want. And David is so good at that, and trusting the process, which he is also good at. And even if you're not an artist, understanding the important role that creativity and passion plays in your life is, I think, everybody's purpose, really getting in touch with that. I also believe that art and creativity is an amazing mindfulness tool. I didn't know anything about myself when I was doing art in college, but I started to notice that every time something really bad happened, i.e. a boy broke up with me, suddenly my creativity would skyrocket. So I started to learn things about myself from tapping into that mindfulness technique that art allows. And I also know what it's like to try to follow a creative path. It is not the easiest path in the world, which I'm sure David will attest to, but it takes fortitude, it takes courage. Quoting Matisse here, creativity takes more than courage. It takes willingness to go against societal and familial expectations and limitations. I know that my mother used to say, you've got to get a real job. You've got to major in something that's going to allow you to, not be a starving artist. And I really bought into that. So, I think a lot of artists do, sadly. But anyway, what I think is wonderful about David is, like I said, he never gave up. No matter how many fears showed up in his life, he just stayed. He insisted on staying. I don't think there was a choice. And David, I'm sure, will confirm that maybe he didn't feel like there was a choice in life. You have to follow your passion. So let me just tell you a little bit about David. Enough about me. First of all, I want to say, just full disclosure, I've known David for, 7 or 8 years. He was teaching an art class at Rancho Los Amigos Rehab Hospital, where my husband was a patient after his stroke. And my husband lost the ability to speak. He lost movement in his right arm and his right side. And he always was creative, but it wasn't anything he really tapped into. So I heard about David's class, and kicking and screaming, I wheeled my husband into a room that was filled with excited faces and various disabilities. And the minute I met David, I knew there was something really remarkable about him. And it took him a while to kind of adjust to how he had to speak with my husband, because he was very confused for quite a while. He would listen to instructions and he couldn't grasp what was being said. So I had to kind of translate and help him a lot. But shortly after that, he must have recognized something about my husband's talent because it started to blossom. And it was so incredible to watch how he dealt not only with my husband, but with everybody in that room. Everybody, like I said, had different disabilities. Some couldn't use certain body parts, some couldn't see, some couldn't talk. You know, a lot of people were in wheelchairs. Many people had no idea what the class was about, and they'd never done anything artistic. So it was really quite an incredible moment to see what would happen with these people. So that's how I know David. And we've become very dear friends from that point on. And we probably text each other 50 times a day. Talk about
about that.
Yeah, I know. We talk about politics. We talk about everything. But I just always wanted to interview David because I'm sure he has so much wisdom to impart to the people that are watching this. And just a little bit of history about him. He has a very long bio on his website, but just to give you a brief understanding, he was born to a very middle-class family in Orange County, California. He worked in commercial art and advertising. He studied at Cal State University, Fullerton. And what I think is wonderful is he learned how to really visually stimulate his audience with popular imagery and contemporary techniques. And he's just phenomenal. Being an art major, I studied art history for 4 years. It used to put me to sleep, but when I was awake, I would love to go back and do those classes over again. But anyway, every artist that I read about died before they became known. You know, I'm sure you've all heard the stories about Van Gogh and all the artists just, you know, it's just the saddest thing in our world that happened. But David, on the other hand, became a success and he's still kicking. He's still alive, which is really amazing. It really is. He lived in Paris for a while and studied there and started doing portraits and murals. And he moved back here and started doing these amazing things. And one of the things which I think is so amazing is he was hired by California Pizza Kitchen to paint pizza boxes. Now, come on. I just think that is so amazing. And instead of just doing a silly little drawing on them, he did these full-on beautiful paintings on these pizza boxes. And how many pizza boxes did you paint in total?
Gosh, 10 years, probably over 2,500 individual oil paintings on cardboard.
And are they all different?
All different, all originals.
I can't even imagine.
Nothing printed. Yeah. So that was quite the task at hand.
Yeah.
So orders would come in, sort of like donuts. You would have, I don't know, maybe 20 paintings a week to get out. Oil paintings.
Wow.
So that was a lot.
They would just hang them, or what did they do with them?
Yeah. They would be ordered nationwide, you know, stores nationwide. They would order them individually. I would ship them out. They would frame them and then hang them in the stores.
Wow.
So, and that took place for about 10 years. And, but I wasn't only doing California Pizza Kitchen at the time. I was also doing El Torito, Disney, several other accounts. So I had my little team of painters helping me along.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to do something like that completely on your own. Really take a team. So I was very grateful to have employed other artists as well to work with me.
Yeah.
And it fulfilled me, I would have to say.
Yeah.
And challenged me. You know, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But and here I am now. So that was.
And here you are.
Yes.
So, and then you started painting murals. Tell us about that, because I know that you've shown me pictures of some of your murals. There's churches, there's exteriors of a marijuana facility.
Yeah, marijuana. You're right. I do a little bit of everything. Catholic churches, I do a lot of that. So, and that's always interesting because you're in a church at night, graveyard shift, 45 feet up, painting on a ceiling, and I'm looking at Jesus the entire
Wow.
So regardless of my belief, yeah, I put my whole heart into whatever I do. So it's sort of transformative. When I'm in a Catholic church, I become this other person. It's sort of like method acting. Same sort of thing. Yeah, restaurants. I do a lot of restaurant murals, and am flown around to different states to do murals for them. And that's also kind of a challenge because that is my business side. A lot of artists don't have that technique,
Yeah.
the ability to be able to work with corporations, CEOs, architects, designers, city planners, and then paint. So
Yeah.
that to me is exciting. A lot of artists say, I don't want to do any of that. But for me, that's the exciting part. Because again, it's a real challenge and it never gets boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keeps me on my toes, keeps me awake.
And what I love about seeing some of the work that you've done, in fact, I've probably seen most of the work that you've done, is that you don't dumb it down, you
No.
don't commercialize it. It's just as creative as anything that you would do, but it happens to be in a church or a pizza shop or wherever it is. And I just think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think, it's sort of like, when you do work for a gallery, and I don't have anything against artists that only do work for gallery reasons, but any type of art, whether it be commercial or working in a church or in a gallery, you're always pleasing someone, right?
Yeah.
Even as a gallery owner yourself, you knew exactly what you wanted and what could sell in a gallery, right? Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me. So there are limitations to whatever type of field in the arts that you'd like to work. I like the fact that when I do public artwork, it's seen by thousands a day, thousands
Yeah.
of people a day. So they're not walking into the gallery; it's in your face. Whether
Yes.
it's a restaurant or in a church, we're looking. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, and that's kind of a nice idea, knowing in the back of my mind that I can have an impact on other people's lives outside of myself.
Yeah.
So I don't really. I make art mainly for the masses, to please people and to get them to think and to maybe get them to escape, maybe something, especially in a church. A lot of people go to church for reasons, all kinds of reasons, and maybe they need help, and maybe the artwork helps them to escape a little bit. So, and in a restaurant, you want some fine dining. You want to be, I'm going to look at food, so suddenly I prompt their appetite. Public art workspaces for me, it's just it's a great avenue, and it keeps me busy, and people see it. So by word of mouth, I'm able to keep business going.
Yeah.
And I think it works for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Not just myself.
Yeah. I think about that all the time because I see things through an artistic lens, and I wonder if people really get the importance of public art or art in general. I always think, well, gosh, how could you not? But I don't know if everybody does. I don't know if people really know that everything around them is art.
Absolutely.
And I think what you do is you get people to stop in their tracks and
Right.
see it,
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah, the moment that you leave your house, there's art around us everywhere, whether it be architecture, billboards, art in somebody's front yard. You can make art out of that.
Yeah.
But I would have to say that I think one of the reasons art is so important and that it does have an impact on others outside of myself is I remember one of the first ceilings I painted in Paris. It's a beautiful sky, and I forget what else I had in there, but it was much more sort of Michelangelo style. And the client wasn't at home. She was in the south of France. And so I had free reign to her apartment. And she came home and I was finished. And she looked at the ceiling and she almost passed out.
Oh, God.
She fell back on her bed and almost her heart almost stopped. And I thought, you know what? I guess I really have an impact on people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. You know, when I was working in the commercial art, you know, and that's how I paid my way through university. It was great. I really enjoyed it, but it was, you know, I was a fine art major, drawing and painting. And in the commercial arts, I liked it. And again, it was a challenge, but I was actually using only about 10 to 15% of my creativity.
Mm.
And I thought, this is not really fair to me. So I dove all in, especially after my accident, which caused me to start looking at my life a little bit differently. And that was a horrible accident when I rolled 3 times on the freeway and then down a mountain. Almost died. And I thought at that point, you know what? Live your life. You only have one, they say. I don't know. Maybe I have 10. Who knows? But for now, I think it's important for me to be happy, for me to have some sort of impact on others. Very, very important. And I'm willing to take that risk because I'm confident. I know what I can do. I've always known what I can do. So for that, I'm grateful. But I will never stop because it does, in fact, keep me going. You know, it's just my blood. It's my lifeblood. I need it.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have that, I don't know where I'd be. You know, I don't want to just be alive. I really want to live my life.
Yeah.
Whether, it's not always easy to be a fine artist, to say the least.
To say the least, yeah.
Say the least. And I go, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then when I start painting, I realize, it makes me feel really good. I would never use art as therapy per se. I know a lot of people that do, but in fact, it does help me. So I'm not going to deny that. But I just have to keep going. It's in my blood.
Yeah.
And I just finished a pet portrait for a friend of ours, right?
Oh,
yes. Did I send you that video?
Tell everybody about that, because David showed me a picture of this pet portrait that he did for a woman that had recently lost her dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it and I started to cry. And tell everybody about that. That's so beautiful.
Well, she had lost her little pooch, and it was her best friend. You know, pets have an effect on you, as you know.
Yes.
I lost mine 2 years ago, and I had to paint my little Tony. And I painted him bigger than life. Not at life size, bigger than life. And he was a little chihuahua, tiny little thing. But his presence was so amazing. I thought, I'm going to do a very large painting of him. Hang it in my bedroom. I look at him every night before I go to sleep. Every morning I wake up, there he is. Good morning, na-na-na. And I thought, you know what? That's a great thing. I love the pet portraits. So a friend of mine ordered his pet portrait. I did this as a surprise for Christmas. He went away to Washington. I shipped it over to Washington. I said, please do me a favor and videotape your mother opening the pet portrait.
Oh.
And he did. And it almost made me cry.
Oh.
Because as she opened it, tears, and then she just started to pet this painting as if it were the real thing.
Oh.
The next day I heard from Anton again. He said, my mom just can't get over it. Thank you, David. She said, thank you. Who did this? Who did this? And she said, I love this portrait because the eyes follow me through the house.
Yeah.
So this portrait is alive.
Yeah.
And I've always been known for that for some reason. I don't know how I do that. But I asked Anton, in fact, my client, I said, could you please give me as much information as you can on this little pooch. I don't know this dog, but I want to catch the personality. And I suppose I did. For a time in Paris, I was painting portraits of deceased humans. And that was really touching as well. So before I do any kind of portraiture like that, I really go through interviews, you know. To me, painting is more than just painting. It's a feeling. You've got to feel, right? Yeah. It's part of our soul. The more that we know about our subjects, the better I can sort of connect with them in some mystical kind of way. Yeah. So, yeah, that portrait is amazing. And actually, I have 2 more that I'm working on right now, and I can't wait to see the reactions.
Yes.
It's always nice to see the reactions.
Yeah.
It really makes me go, okay, mission accomplished. I've done
Yes.
up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what's happening currently.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I want to go back to something that you said right before you were talking about the dog portraits, and that is that you are confident. I think that's such an important word, and I know how confident you are. I've seen you at work, and I've seen you as a teacher. How did that happen? Is that just something that naturally happens, or is there a process to get there? How does that happen for you?
A couple of things. I'm just, I mean, I started to make art when I was very, very young. So I would draw constantly. And I started off drawing first. And my parents looked at my work and they said, huh, that's not bad. But much like your parents, they said, what are you going to do? You know,
Yeah.
you're going to teach, right? And I said, well,
Right.
no, maybe I'll teach. You know, I don't know. That was never really my goal, but I think I'm a natural teacher that way. Um, just, I just knew that I could do it. You know, when you have this, we can call it talent, it's great. It's one thing to have the talent, it's another thing to utilize that talent. And that takes a lot of discipline. So I know in the back of my mind that I do have the talent. The discipline really needs to kick in. Uh, I was asked one time by a CEO client. He said, David, I know that you don't like doing a lot of this work because now we're personal friends. And I was doing gallery work at the time. I was designing sets in Hollywood for theater. And then also doing the commercial. And he said, I know that you sometimes don't enjoy painting what we ask you to paint. And he said, how do you do that? And I said, you know what? That's a really good question. If I don't like something I'm painting, whether it be a commission or just something about myself, I try to figure out why I don't like it the entire time I'm painting. And I ask myself these inner questions. And at the end of it, the painting's finished. And I still had not answered that question. And then I go on to the next. So just confidence, just reassurance. You know, I was fortunate enough in high school, I was taking college courses. So by the time I entered into Cal State Fullerton, I was already sort of junior level, you know, had already done 2 years of college level work in high school. So I knew I had the talent, and I thought, what else am I going to do? And I tried a lot of things. Believe me, I had 17 jobs before I was 20. But there's nothing like the idea of creating artwork. It just makes me feel good. I know that I can do it, and how I get around sometimes the difficulty of finding the work. You know, that is also a challenge. But I will never stop, never have, probably will never retire, because I enjoy what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you enjoy something so much, that says a lot, you know.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people out there that they may not enjoy their jobs. And, you know, believe me, there are parts of my job that I don't enjoy. But if I could say 85% of the time I like what I'm doing, that's a really good percentage. I never think it's 100%, ever, ever. For me, anyway. I'm
Yeah.
just for myself.
Yeah. Huh. Well, this is probably, I don't know, maybe a bizarre question, but how do you, I'm sure dealing with clients and whatever, restaurants or whoever you're dealing with, you get criticism, I'm assuming. How do you deal with that? And how do you process that in your life?
Constantly criticized.
Yeah.
What I do. So just like any art form, when you put yourself out there, there's going to be criticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always. Always. When I was first starting out, I was secure, but not as secure as I am now. So there were some insecurities. And I was used to, prior to really working with clients, paint something and have somebody say, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That's great. You know, I was sort of expecting that same thing coming from corporations.
No.
So I thought, gosh, they're not saying anything. They must really hate my artwork. And what I realized was, guess what? If they don't say anything, you've done your job.
Huh.
So saying nothing is a huge compliment. You know, saying nothing and receiving a check is like, yes, I've done my job. So it went from having David, that's so beautiful, to corporations like no word, you know, and that's part of the business too. You know, you don't want your clients to go, oh my God, it's amazing, because they may fear that on the next gig you go, oh, you like my work so much, now I'm going to charge 10 times as much.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so it's part of that business sort of idea. But I really get the fact that now if I don't hear anything, I've done my job. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is a different,
interesting game to play in the creative world. Wow.
It is.
So we need to take a little bit of a break, and just to tell everybody, I'm talking to David Early, amazing artist and teacher and human, and we'll be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Royce Morales, and I'm talking to David Early, who is a fine artist, a very fine artist, and an amazing art teacher, among other things. And we're just talking about creativity and the importance of creativity and some of the pitfalls about being an artist and some of the things that you go through in trying to please your clients, et cetera. I've got so many questions here. I'm just going to jump into this one. How do you help other people access their creativity? I don't even know if there's an answer to that, but how do you do that?
It's a very good question. How do I do that? Well, I know what the feeling of being creative is all about. First of all, I know what it makes me feel like. And I think people, they love that kind of thing, you know? I know a lot of people that they've retired and suddenly they go into the arts because it makes them feel good. But if you could do this at a younger age and make you feel good, I know there's a key to creativity and the way that it makes us feel.
Yeah.
That for me is for certain for me. When I see students pleased in their artwork and that they get excited, it's like a light bulb that goes off, right, above their head. And I say, okay, I've locked in here. You know, we can communicate. So then, you know, sort of just ask them where they want to go with it. How do they feel about it? If they're insecure about it, I let them know we're all insecure. Not a problem. Don't let your insecurities get in the way of your creativity or your want and desire to create.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that happens a lot. You know, people are a little bit intimidated. And at the end of the day, I think it's only art, you know.
Only
I mean,
art.
it's only art, and it is only my life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is only art. You know, art has been around for many, many, many years, thousands since the beginning of mankind.
Yeah.
So, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's only art.
Yeah.
You know, so let's not be afraid. Let's not be insecure. And I know you want to be creative. That's all. I believe that is intuitive for people to be creative.
Yes.
They're creative the way they eat, the way they arrange their food, the way they make their bed. You know, there's that creative force right there. And you can call it art or you can't, but it is creativity. And we all, you know, maintain that certain level of creativity in our lives. So for me, it's trying to pull that out. And hopefully I do that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the disabled classes that you do. I think that I mean, I watch how you do it with people. It's amazing. But I also read recently, which I think is really interesting. It certainly makes sense with my husband after his stroke, but that brain injury seems to help people tap into their creativity. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't, but I do believe that would be the case.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, in your husband's case, Michael, I know his brain is active in there, you know, and it must be certainly frustrating for him not to be able to speak as, you know, as he'd like, or to maybe draw with his prominent hand, having to use his opposite hand. That must be also frustrating on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for him to be able to take his frustrations and turn, and by the way, his art is beautiful and I really love it, but to turn that into a positive thing means the world to me.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it really does. When I was approached to teach at Rancho, the idea was that they wanted to bring in a professional artist and not a teacher working in the arts. And it was funded through, back then, I still believe it is, the LA Arts Commission, and based off of a grant. And they wanted to bring in a professional artist who's actually working in the field and to teach them techniques on how possibly they could create their own artwork and then possibly sell it and make a living or somewhat, you know. And some of them have started to do that, including Michael. Now he's in this wonderful gallery in Big Bear, and he's selling. So for me to look at where he was 7 years ago to where he is now, he's on the top of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it just really, really warms my heart. Almost, you know, teaching. I taught children for a while. And I enjoyed it, but there's nothing more important to me than to teach those with disabilities, because sometimes the children just wanted to do it if they needed to graduate, not children, you know, high school or whatever it may be, to pass, to get the credits, and so they can move on. So it never really meant, but with teaching at Rancho, it means a lot to these people.
Yes, it does.
And I think it means almost more to me than it does to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why we have our special family there. And, you know, they've seen me show up sometimes 2 hours via Zoom now. You know, the pandemic used to be, you know, face to face. And then we all, you know, started to work with Zoom. I tried to get into that idea of teaching art via Zoom, another challenge. But I have to say, I love it. And we're still doing it, right?
We are.
And you've seen me 2 hours of sleep, because the night before I was doing a graveyard in a theater, painting 60 feet on top of a crane or scaffolding or whatever it may be. And you've all bared with me, so thank you for that.
Yes.
That's the life of a working artist.
Yes, yeah.
Never know where you're going to be.
So another question, and you may have already answered this to some degree, but do you ever want to give up? Do you ever want to listen to what the voice that your parents might still have in your ears that are saying, get a real job? Do you ever just want to do that?
Yes, I do. And that lasts for about 2 seconds. And then I'm back to painting.
Good.
You know, I am. So, but of course, that, I think, it'd be so nice to have steady income, and that's great. But as a friend told me in Paris, a German friend, I said, I really need to get a steady job. She said, nothing is steady in life. Nothing.
That's true.
So you have this false sense, well, I've got this full-time job. I'm going to make it through the day. Who knows if you are?
Right. That's true.
Who knows if you could be fired tomorrow or let go? There's nothing for certain in this life.
Yeah.
And if you could be, happy with what you do, which I am, I'm content. But I have to say, yes, there are times where I'm thinking, is McDonald's hiring? Maybe I can dance up that hamburger.
Yeah, there you go.
And just when I do that, I'd go, let me manifest my own life.
Yes.
And I think if we all do that, things happen. You build it, they will come.
Well, that's something I wanted to share because I talked to you a couple weeks ago and I said, so what are you up to? And you said, oh, I'm preparing for a one-man show. And I said, oh, really? Where's that going to be? And you said, I don't know. And I thought,
I don't know. I'll find it.
Trust. That is total trust and manifestation. I just love that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what it goes down to.
Yeah. For me, I have to keep creating. I have to keep creating, whether it's for myself or for clients. But at the end of the day, people are not going to knock on your door if you don't create.
Right.
Right? So you have to get that creative ball going. It is a ball that is in motion, and it keeps me strong. It keeps me healthy, keeps my mind awake, but it's something I just need to have always happening in my life.
Yeah.
And so manifestation, it really is, and it really does seem to work for me. I don't know if I'm just one of those lucky ones, to be honest with you.
I don't think so.
But I do know that I'm disciplined, and I have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's all going to fall apart. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that sometimes we'll chat about things or text about things and something negative will slip out and you immediately correct it. I just think that's so wonderful because, obviously we manifest whatever it is that our thoughts are, sending out there about. So you just kind of do that naturally. Is that something that you have been trained to do? Did you have personal development courses, or is it just a natural part of you?
It's just a natural. I'm a very positive person for the most part. And I think even when I feel down or negative, that is human, and I allow that to happen. Yeah. But not for a very long time. Maybe a day of depression, and they go, okay, I'm out of it, because I'm not going to be that person. Yeah. I know there is a positive side. So let's paint, let's create. Even if I go in my studio and I say, okay, today is just going to be organization of my materials, the whole time I'm thinking about paintings coming up. And that's my happy space, sort of speak. But yeah, no real training in that way. Maybe I should get more, but for now it seems to be working for me to stay as positive as I can about what I do. After all, it's my choice. And I think everything that we do in life, it's your choice and it's my choice. Right?
That is true.
So hopefully my choice will be a good one. What I do, it's like going out and picking corn every morning. I don't know how many good stalks of corn there are going to be. And they said, you really ride by the seat of your pants, don't you? And I said, well, maybe I do. Yeah. But I tell you, it's very exciting. For me, it's very exciting. So
Yeah.
I was asked a couple of times to go into high schools and to talk about my life as an artist and encourage people to take that chance. And I've always refused to do that.
Really? Why?
Yeah. Because if you do want a life as an artist, you just do it. You don't listen to anyone. You just do it. You have the confidence. You have the maybe the income to be able to purchase supplies. But the fact of the matter is, you just do it. I can't convince anyone to be creative. I can't, and say, go with this life as an artist because it's fabulous. Well, you know what? What if they got into it and they hated it?
But you
right?
said,
and they hurt themselves or they did whatever. I don't want to be responsible for that.
well,
So if you truly like something, you just do it,
Yeah.
But yes, I have denied. I've said no several times. For me, there's no way out of it. And I know fellow artists, professionals, it's not that you're stuck. It is just an area that you have to fulfill in your life, and you do it.
And what if you couldn't? What if suddenly, something happened and you just could not do art anymore?
I don't know what I'd do, but I would keep going. I would do something creative. Say, for example, I lost the ability to work with my hands. My hands are everything. Maybe I should insure them. But if I lost that ability, I would find other ways to be creative.
Yeah.
I wouldn't sing. I wouldn't act. I've tried that before. Acting, hard job. But I would find other ways to be creative. Just because it is, again, fulfilling.
Yeah. Maybe you would focus more on teaching others.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I have a lot of information to share with people.
Yeah.
And lots of years. I've been painting professionally for about 30 years. And each year there's something new to learn. And I'm still learning. I never stop learning. And for me, that's exciting. I want to go another 30 years. And that's why people do say, well, so what are you going to do when you retire? And I'll never retire. I mean, why? What else am I going to do? So, and I think the thing about the life of a fine artist, I would have to say, is that you don't hit 30 and say, well, my life is over. Some of the best artists in the world made their best works when they were much older in life. And that's the beauty about fine art, is that you can keep going and keep going and keep going. You're not a fashion model to where your days are over when you're 30, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. I have friends that I look at their artwork now and go, oh, it's incredible. I knew them in college, university, and now I'm looking at what they do, and they're making some of the best work I think I've ever seen. So, I want that to happen for me as well. I hope it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I titled this show, Is Creativity the Answer? And like I already said, I thoroughly believe that it is. What do you think about that? How can creativity save the planet, save us personally, be the answer? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I take that from two different views. When I was living in Paris for 3 years, Europeans treat artists differently than they do here in America.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes.
Artists over there, if you were to say that I'm an artist, right? One thing, that has to be legitimate. Second is, over there, they perceive artists as sort of the intellectuals, sort of like you're an attorney or you're a doctor. They really take art seriously. But look at Europe. Look at a city like Paris.
Yeah.
Beautiful. They've built a civilization on artwork alone, and that continues. Here in America, maybe not so much. You know, like your parents said, what are you going to do to make a living? That seems to be over there. They say, okay, yeah, make a living from it, and they do take it seriously. So thank goodness for that I had a little bit of that background, because I bring that with me here to America. I take my job very seriously, and yeah. But what was your original question?
Is creativity the answer?
For me, it is. For me, it is.
For the world.
Yeah, and I think it's individual, you know. Changing the world starts with yourself, as they say.
Yeah.
And for me, if I could change the world just for at least one person, I'm doing my job. Thankfully, I get seen by thousands a day. I love that. But if I can really just change one person's perception about being creative and what it does and how fulfilling it is, and if I can inspire you, you can inspire me. We feed off of each other. It's you know, it is a communication. Definitely a communication. Like eating or sleeping or whatever it may be. Something for me, it's in my blood. So.
What about in terms of art as making a social or political statement?
Very important. I'm not so much of a social or political painter. I could be, but I don't want too much focus going into areas that I'm not completely 100% understanding of. Say, for example, I went into political paintings. You know, I have my views, but I don't really understand all parts of politics. So therefore, I don't feel that I'm up there in terms of wanting to, you know, speak about something, whether it be in art or in writing or whatever it is, if I'm not completely certain with what I'm talking about. So I don't bring that into art too much. For me, it's more about beauty, more about getting people to think. And yeah, you could do that with political painters like Diego Rivera. He was very, very good at that.
Yeah.
But not so much for me. You know, I can only do so much. And yeah, if I were to follow that route, I don't know where I'd be. So
you want people to think, but what about feeling? Because I know when I look at art, that's the first thing that happens for me. Like I said, when I watched or when I saw when she was opening that picture of her dog, and I was like, you know, I started sobbing, and that's how I react to art. So, you know, I know you can't control how people react on a feeling level, but do you think about that?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
Of course I do. Yeah. Yeah. Especially with portraiture and about somebody so dear that might not be here. For me to be able to pick up on that means a lot. So I do think of feeling first. I think that's probably the first thing that we when we do look at artwork, it's that initial reaction. You know, pop art, for example, it was all about pop. It was all about making that statement, that bold, you know, in your face. You know, Americans can finally we could do whatever we want here. You know, we can create we're not censored. So, and they wanted to make that pop. But that's the first thing that when you look at art, it's like right away you're going to get that initial reaction, that feeling. But if I could take you even a step further, that really means I'm doing my job. Feeling is good. Feeling is great. But then we could talk about decorative art. How does that make you feel?
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it makes you feel great to look at it, but what does it mean? Mm-hmm. Does it mean more than that?
Yeah.
So I think of all of that with the, you know, creation process. But, you know.
I'm flashing back to my art history classes.
Yes. Oh no. Don't sleep on me. Don't go.
Oh my God, no. I would literally pass out. You know, the teacher, the instructor would turn off the lights, start showing the slides, and I'd be gone.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, I think as you're talking, I think I'm realizing that because I react on such a visceral feeling level to art, and there they are kind of tearing it apart and saying, and look at the orange up here, and look at how they did this shadow, and then, you know, and to me that just, oh, it would drive me crazy, because I just look at it and go, wow, you know, or ugh, you know, I would have these reactions. So yeah.
I love that. It was sort of a field trip for me, art history.
Yeah.
Took me, you know, it does, art takes you sometimes out of your reality. And for me, every time studying through an art history, transport me to Egypt, transport me here, transport me there. And that's a great thing sometimes, to get out of your own reality for a second, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that was a real field trip. I enjoyed every second of it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like I said, I need to go back and redo those classes.
Well, stick with me.
Okay.
I've got plenty of art books here for you.
Yeah. So what about art as a means to connect? I mean, everything in the world is so polarized right now. You know, everything. We're just living in, you know, two different realities, I think, with all the political stuff going on, and the wars, and the, you know, all of that stuff. How can art bring us together in some way?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, definitely. Whether it's for business, or whether it's for, you know, commission portraits, or whether it's gallery work, if it can prompt some sort of discussion and conversation, that's great. For me, that works. Again, you know, for me, it's only art, but it's more than that. It's everything. So you could put it on a scale of being only art. Maybe that's 1%. But when I look at it, it's 100%, because it does make you think, and it does, you know, people smile, they cry, whatever, bringing up on these other emotions, and not thinking so consciously about everything that we do. It is polarizing, this life, you know, more so now than I think, for me, in a very, very long time. But I don't want to rest there. I don't want to rest in that spot. Let me take you on a little voyage. You know, come with me on the artistic side. It makes people smile and happy. And yeah, I know that if it does that for me, that certainly it can affect somebody else that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we only have a few more minutes left. If you had one bit of advice, I know this is a hokey question, but if you had one bit of advice for somebody that, you know, hasn't accessed their creativity, or wants to, or is thinking, gee, I'd really like to be an artist, what would you say to them?
Well, if you really wanted to be an artist, and you're confident, and you're disciplined, and you have a little bit of talent, never give up. Believe in yourself. Yourself is in you, obviously. That doesn't really make sense. But trust your instincts, I would have to say. You know? First and foremost, don't give up. Life is hard. It is hard. But then I think I could be in different parts of the world right now where it is very hard.
Yeah.
But for me, I just recommend just never give up. Trust in your own instincts, and it will take you places. It has for me.
And if they don't have that confidence yet?
If they don't have that confidence yet, maybe it's not for you. You know, that's just the reality of it, you know?
Yeah.
If I have to tell you, Royce, I don't really enjoy doing things I'm not very good at. So if I didn't really think that I could be an artist, or paint, or draw, I probably wouldn't do what I do. And I would assume that would be the same for others.
Yeah.
If they're not confident, it's not their path. And, you know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, you'll find your path.
Yeah.
But whatever your path is, don't give up. Never give up. Choose a path, stick with it, whether it may be art, science, working for a fire station, whatever. Never give up. And trust in yourself.
Yeah. And I think what you said is really important. Maybe your lack of confidence means that isn't your path. Because I know that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
And never in a million years would I ever think that I'd be a spiritual teacher. If somebody had said, that's what you're going to be doing when you're 25.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, don't we tend to do things that we're best at? I would hope. Right?
I would hope.
If not, what kind of life are you living?
Yeah.
And what you do is so helpful to others. You found your path, and people trust in you. I found mine, and people trust in me. Yeah. So we are two lucky little nuggets here. So to have found our path and to keep going. So.
Yeah. Well, tell people how to reach you, and if anybody wants to get a pet portrait or a pizza box or whatever it is, how do people find you?
Via my website at davidearlyfineart.com. I am on Instagram, but not too much because I need to discipline my life. So I try not to spend too much time on social media. Yeah. But really, I think davidearlyfineart.com would be your best bet. It has my contact information there. I'm not too much of a Facebooker, things like that. I do have a page, but really, davidearlyfineart.com would probably be your best bet. Or just Google me.
Okay.
And who knows what you'll find, but hopefully only good stuff.
Thank you so much. And just to remind everybody to deserve to find your path, whether it's art or anything else. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. And we'll see you soon.